Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and I'm here to do the Gnome Dies Nativity Add Ons Assembly video. Hey, so I'm using the brand new Gnome Dies Nativity Add Ons, and you're going to want to have Jaded Blossom's Gnome Dies as well for this. So I'm going to first assemble this little manger, cut out of American Crafts black, brown, and yellow cardstock. So I'm just going to layer these up. So you can use this, like have it separate, like before Jesus is born, right? And then you can add baby Jesus after, have one that has baby Jesus in it, like after he's born. So I am layering that all up, and that's on an A2 size card base. Next, I'm going to put together my little baby Jesus. These are all American Crafts cardstock in like different browns and khakis. I'm also using P13 Stamping Pad skin tones for the skin tones. So I'm just putting together this little gnome. Now you could easily use this as a baby gnome for like a baby shower card if you wanted to, right? Or just a baby card. But this one is supposed to represent Jesus, so there he is. And there you can have him sitting on top of the manger like that. Or you can kind of build it together and have it as one piece. So I cut it out of American Crafts black cardstock, and then I'm using different colors of browns, etc. And I'm going to assemble it. So you're going to want to have your baby Jesus on there first, and then assemble, add the manger pieces on top of that. So I'm using my Barely Art glue. All my die cutting today was done with my Anna Griffin Empress machine, and I'm working on a Stampin' Up! Pad. I've got a bit of a cold, as you can tell, so excuse my voice, but it is what it is, right? I am adding on all the skin tones next, using my embellishment wand. There we go. So my little baby Jesus is on top, and now I'll add my pieces for the little manger, cut from American Crafts yellow and brown cardstock. So I'm just going to line that up. And then I'm going to add on the bottom of the manger, and then that's it. This is really simple to put together, as you see. So there we are. And that's on an A2 size card. Okay, next I'm going to assemble the shepherd. So first I cut the staff out of American Crafts brown cardstock, and I cut the other layer out of brown as well. I'm going to pop up the hand, on that little base layer with the little, shows you where the hand goes. And I'm going to put together this little gnome. So you're going to want the Jaded Blossoms gnome dies for the beard, the base, and the mustache, and the feet and the hands, I'm inking around the American Crafts brown cardstock with some Simon Says stamped white pigment ink, just so it pops, against, so the mustache stands out against the beard, so it doesn't just look like one blob of hair, right? So now I'm going to assemble this little shepherd, and I'm just going to add his little beard on with some Barely Art glue. And, you always start with the beard and the, beard for the gnome dies. There we go. Now you see that I sort of cut the hat down a bit, but I didn't cut it down enough. And you'll see that in a second. Hope I realize, oops, I got to put the hat on. So this is American Crafts, like a khaki cardstock. I'm just going to trim that hat off a little bit better. And I will add on this little cap first. There we go. And then the brim of that little area. And that's like a, light brown cardstock from American Crafts. I do like to overlap the mustache a little bit. You don't have to, but I like to. So I'm overlapping that mustache a bit, and then I will pop up the nose with some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. And there we go. And I do like to overlap the hat a little bit. And there is my shepherd. I'm going to pop up the bare feet with some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. I'm just going to cut a little chunk myself and add those on. I love the bare feet on the gnomes. They're just so cute, right? So I'm really enjoying this new Black Friday release. I just think, we've been asking for a nativity for a long, long time. So I think that people are going to love this. So I'm going to add his little staff, and then I will pop up his little hand with a Stampin' Up! Dimensional. And there we are. And there's his other hand. Now I'm missing a piece. That's an A2 size card that I put it on. There's this little, the back of the hat that I've got to add on. And there we go, American Crafts brown cardstocks. And there it is on an A2 size card base. Okay, next I'm going to put together, I can't remember if I started with Mary or Joseph first. Oh, I'm starting with Mary, sorry. So American Crafts black cardstock, although it doesn't matter, it's not going to show. I'm just using that as a base layer. And then I'm using like browns and khakis, again, for her. And I'm just going to layer her robe. This is one of the robes that you reuse on the 3 Wise Men. So this is the one robe, right? There, so you want to start with the robes for Mary. And I do weight it down with an acrylic block. Next, I'm going to put together the little arms. Same thing, American Crafts black cardstock, it doesn't show. And then I will add on the sleeves, the same colors of the sides of that robe. And then the little hands is that P13 Stamping Pad Skin Tones again. These are fun little arms. These would be good to use on a normal gnome, just to have a little praying gnome, right? Super fun. So I'm going to add on the little hand there, and there is my little praying arms that I'll be adding to Mary. Now both Mary and Joseph both have these little praying arms. Next I'm going to overlap her head. That's the same P13 Stamping Pad Skin Tones. There we are. And then I'm going to overlap the hat, lining everything up with that base dye there. And then I'm using that's like a light brown, and then I'll use the khaki again for the brim of the hat. I've got to figure out where my little arms are going to line up. You're going to want the 2 little hands to meet in the center. And her hair does kind of go over the, edges of the arms. So the arms are first. There we are. And then I'm going to add her hair on. That will line up with the bottom of the hat. And you can also see where that black area of the die cut hangs off Mary. So you can line it up perfectly. And this is another piece. This is American Crafts brown cardstock. I used all like browns, beiges, and khakis for all of these. There we go. Now I'm going to pop up the little nose with Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, overlapping the hat. But I need to add the brim to the hat first. So I'm just going to get that glued down. There we go. And then I will pop up her little nose, kind of overlapping that hat edge, because I kind of like the look of that. And I've got to add the back of her, sort of like a cape to her. And I'm adding that to the back of her. And that's American Crafts like a khaki. And there we go. Isn't that fun? So there's Mary, and there's a shepherd. Next, I'm going to put together Joseph. Now, this little robe for Joseph, you reuse that for your 3 Wise Men again as well. There, so I'm just adding on, this is kind of like a light brown. So you start with the robe. You're going to add your little tie. There's 2 little bumps on either side of that robe that you line up with, and that's American Crafts brown cardstock there. So just adding that in place. Next, I'm going to stick down the beard. You see that I did ink around the edge with some white pigment ink from Simon Says Stamp. Any white pigment ink would do. You could even use like a dark colored ink if you wanted to have like a darker color around the edge to make that mustache pop. Next, I'm going to add the hat. Remember, that lines up perfectly with the top of the beard. There we go. And the same thing, adding on the hat brim. So these are very simple to put together. There's a lot of die cutting, but once you've done your die cutting, it's pretty simple to put these guys together. Next, adding on the mustache that overlaps the brim of the hat a little bit. And then I will add on my nose with some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. There we are. And I'm going to pop that on. Oops. There. And next I'm going to add my little arms on here. There's two little black pieces there. I'm going to try and line things up so I cover those. You'll see that I do mess around with them in a minute because I don't get them lined up perfectly in the center. You know, I kind of wanted my arms, my little hands touching. And, whoops, once we get them in place. There we go. So there's my Joseph with the little praying hands. Next, we've got to add on the piece that goes on the back of the hat, right? Sort of looks like a cape, but you know what I mean. It's like a robe. So we're going to add that on the back. There. And there is my Joseph and my Mary, right? Both on an A2 size card. So this is on an A2 size card front. And there we go. Super cute stuff, right? And then there is my little shepherd as well. So just sort of showing you all the different pieces, and that's it. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog, Be Inspired by the Team, and the Jaded Blossom store to get shopping for this release and the sale. Bye, everybody.